It's January 17th, 2026. Welcome to yes2hellwith.com. Now, before I begin today's video, I'd like to address something that comes up often on the chats, and I find it rather curious why this is supposedly so important, and that is the question of whether this is AI or I am AI, or whether I am an avatar. And I find it quite remarkable, even though we do live in a day of confusion where technology is giving us voices and faces that appear real. But I am quite real. And yesterday someone posted a message that suggested I stand up and do jumping jacks. Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do jumping jacks. I'm not going to do somersaults. I'm not going to do cartwheels. I'm not going to do yoga. And I am a yoga instructor. But what I will do is I will acknowledge those of you who have been supportive and thanked me and extended your compliments about the content and how important it has been to you and to your lives. And to you alone, I will raise a glass of water and say, saludos. And I acknowledge you very, very much. So having said that, let's get into today's content. Up to this point, we've explained why order matters and what order does not do. Order does not win the case. Order does not guarantee fairness. Order prevents you from conceding what has not been established. Now we can get specific. When silence ends and a response is required, the first response must be questions, not casual or argumentative or loaded questions. Written questions that are placed into the record. The order is strict. Authority first, jurisdiction second, obligation third. Because asking out of sequence concedes something that cannot be undone. So what do these questions actually look like on paper? They look simple, they look restrained, and they are narrow by design. They are not asked to persuade, they are asked to force structure into a process that begins with presumption. First, authority. Authority means identifying who is claiming the right to act against you and where that right is supposedly coming from. Not power, not department names, not general law. Authority must be identifiable, specific, and tied to the action being taken. So the first questions are, who is making the claim against me? What office or position is responsible for this notice or demand against me? What specific authority does that office rely upon to make this claim against me in this specific matter? If the person or office making the claim cannot be clearly identified, or if the claimed authority cannot be stated with specificity, nothing else can proceed without presumption involved. Second, jurisdiction. Jurisdiction asks whether the claimed authority even reaches you. Jurisdiction does not exist because a letter was mailed. It does not exist because a form was issued. It does not exist because someone says it does. Jurisdiction must be shown. So the next questions are, over whom does the claimed authority apply in relation to me? Where does that claimed jurisdiction apply in relation to me? What specific fact connects me to that jurisdiction? These questions force the claimed connection onto the record or expose that it was never established. They prevent silent presumptions about status, location, or participation. Third, obligation. Only after authority and jurisdiction are identified does obligation come into view. Obligation means a legally enforceable duty, not a demand, not an expectation, not a threat. So the final questions are, what specific law creates the alleged obligation claimed against me? What activity is alleged to trigger that obligation for me? How does that law apply to me specifically without presumption or assumption? Until those questions are answered, there is no verified obligation. And without a verified obligation, there is nothing for you to rebut, deny, or explain. Let's look at a critical clarification about the record. If the agency answers these questions accurately, the limits of the claim are revealed. That's good. If the agency answers these questions inaccurately, the defect is now documented. If the agency does not answer at all, the absence of proof remains on the record. You have not supplied what the system failed to establish. That is the point. What do these questions prevent? They prevent you from arguing facts before authority is shown. They prevent you from disputing amounts before jurisdiction is proven. They prevent you from denying liability before obligation exists. They stop you from volunteering admissions the system does not yet possess. That is why wording matters. That is why timing matters. And that is why order matters. And as always, may truth reign supreme.